Hi, I'm Marianne Clyde, and today I have a mom named Krista who's going to talk to us about her special needs child. Hey, Krista, thanks for coming.
Hey, Marianne.
Okay, let's start from the very, very beginning.
Okay.
How old is your special needs child now?
He is 9.
Okay. When did you first suspect?
Well, he was about 10 months old. He was a normal baby, normal birth, normal everything. He, around 10 months old, we noticed he had developmental delays. When it was time to kind of sit up and navigate his world, you know, have toys brought to him and that and play with them, he wouldn't touch them. He couldn't sit up. He was very low muscle tone. We had a daughter who was 5, so we were aware of the normal development. About 12 months, I said to a friend of mine who's a physical therapist, hold him, is there something wrong? And she said he has no muscle tone. He also became very, he was a happy baby, and he became very flat, almost like he wanted to stay in his crib. When he would have a nap, he would sometimes just lay in there and never, you know, they usually acknowledge they'd like to get up. He'd be in the corner, just laying there. So we also noticed when we would put him in a swing, he would scream. But we just figured he doesn't like swings. If we bounced him, he'd scream. When you put them down to diaper them, scream. Well, he doesn't like to be diapered, and he doesn't like to bounce. But really, there was more going on.
Yeah, and you suspected that. So how old was he when he was actually diagnosed, and what was he diagnosed with?
When he was I took him, after my physical therapy friend said that he had no muscle tone, she said, you need to come in tomorrow. So I went to the pediatrician and asked him if, told him what she had said, and he said he's a boy, he's also a big boy. I think he can come back when he's 18 months old.
And you didn't agree.
And I said, no, I said, you know what, she's my friend. Let's go for it. I've got time. And let's just see what's going on. So he said that he would give me the referral to ease my anxiety. So that was fun.
So he gave you the referral for
me.
Okay.
Really.
And then the referral was to whom?
To a pediatric physical therapist. So we went to her, and the minute we walked in, she held him and she said, thank God you're here. Because he said we could wait till 18 months. She said, there's no way. So we started with her. And as we were working with her, and I thought it was maybe just fine motor, gross motor, and some physical therapy might fix it. Then I was telling her how he was avoidant of toys, and she saw that too, and very avoidant even in the room. I mean, she used toys to play with him to get him to move, and that made him beside himself. So she said, I wonder if there's a sensory component here. I'd never heard of it. So I went home, went on Amazon.
There you go.
Yeah, and put in, she had told me sensory integration. I put it in and I thought, you know what, I'll just pick one book. Because really we were at a point where we got to figure out what's going on with this child. Doctor has said he's fine. We've got some muscle tone issues. But my husband and I are both not super athletic in that. So that wasn't a huge cause for concern. It was more his affect being so miserable. In a home he's got a nice sister and there's not a lot of drama. So there was really no reason for this child to be so unhappy, and he was unhappy in his world. So I got the book Sensational Kids, written by Lucy Jane Miller, and she wrote this book. There's been a lot of books on sensory integration, but she's one that's written one as of recent. She has a place in Denver, and it's the only place in Denver where the government is funding research on sensory processing.
Okay.
So
you went there.
So I read the book, and then I called there because in the back it said, that she had a center, and I said, we're coming. When can we come? And they said, if you come, you need to come for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because I just said to them, teach us how to help our son.
So you and your husband
and our daughter
and your daughter all went for 2 weeks.
Because we knew that we all needed to learn how to do this. So all 3 of us took her out of school. And because when I read the book too, I realized this child has sensory processing disorder. This is what he has. And also he had autistic characteristics. Every child with autism has sensory processing, but not every child with sensory processing has autism.
Okay.
So we didn't know where we were going. Again, he was 1. So kind of hard to even diagnose autism at that point.
Right.
But I wanted to, what I had read and this was all new to me, early integration, and you can kind of kick this stuff. So we went to Denver for 2 weeks and got therapy every day, and they taught us everything.
Now, you were working at the time, I think, right?
I was working.
How did this affect the family? You quit work, I think, right?
I did. Once we got back from Denver, and then I went and saw another specialist, a developmental specialist, and he said, you need to come into therapy with him starting tomorrow. 2 days a week for an hour, and then when you go home, you need to do what we were doing with him in the morning, in the afternoon, and that's when I said to my husband.
Twice a day, or?
At least twice a day.
Of a series of exercises
Yes.
that took how long?
An hour.
Okay.
But a lot of them, sometimes it was longer, sometimes he couldn't handle it.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't fun, right? For him, it was miserable. For me, it was painful to see your child
Hurt
like
your
that.
baby, yeah.
Yeah, and really, all we're doing is really playing, but it's painful.
Yeah.
So, and then I realized he still needed PT, and I signed on an OT.
Okay.
Who's sensory processing. She was trained in that. She was coming once a week. So I had to quit my job that I loved.
Oh, yeah. So you found out you had to make sacrifices.
He was then my job.
To make him your full focus, because now at 9, he's fully functioning.
He's fine. You wouldn't even know that he has a problem.
So it made a big difference to have
made a
early
huge difference. Early intervention. And the other thing that I learned through all of it too was I was told about a nutritionist. There's one in Bethesda. She works with people all over the world. You can do phone consultation, or you can go see her if you live by.
What's her name?
Her name is Kelly Dorfman.
Okay.
And she has a book that she's written too. And her goal is to help children that are kind of that have anything that's off the norm.
Okay.
She loves the challenge, and she's just well versed in that. And I called her because what I was told was, you can do all this therapy, but unless you start feeding the brain of your child with nutrients, and a lot of kids with delays in that are your avoiders of food, avoiders of, they'll be the one.
They don't like the textures of
right. They'll eat
foods.
a hot dog only or that.
Right.
So we got her involved too, and got him on a ton of supplements, which literally fed the brain, which then allowed the brain to actually take in the therapy that we were doing.
Wow. So you
that
made a
was
lot of
essential.
adjustments and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Gluten-free.
Did this affect your older daughter at all?
We explained it to her. She was about 5.5, and we incorporated her in the play.
Okay.
The therapy for him was
So
therapy.
she helped do the
She
therapy.
helped a lot. And
Okay.
I tell a lot of people, use your kids. They can be your therapist. Because little kids love to follow other kids. They can be the ones that, can lead them to stuff that they might not want to do.
Well, I think that's very wise, because you hear a lot of parents say that their other children, their neurotypical children, kind of think, well, you're paying all the attention to this kid,
Right.
and so I'm not as important. So the way that you kind of incorporated her in,
Bring her
I
in.
think was really, really helpful.
Yeah, when he was allowed to throw things at the wall, little balls and that, she was allowed to fire them too.
Get rid of her frustrations
Right.
that way. Okay. So what were your biggest fears and concerns along the way?
The biggest fear for me at 12, when he was 12 months old and really was so miserable, was I could see the big picture. I was picturing this 13, 14, 15-year-old. They're cute when they're little. It's not cute when they're older. And my whole thing was, if I can fix this, or at least get him to his highest potential, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
And I want him to be, I could tell that he could, he could interact and such. And then once we took him off gluten and milk, you could see his eyes brighten up, and he actually was looking at you.
Is that right?
And that was within a week.
Gluten and milk. Who
Gluten and
suggested
milk.
that?
That
your
was,
woman in Bethesda. Okay.
When the first time I called her,
Okay.
she said, first things first. Since you're a newbie, she said, just start with that and call me in a week. So I did, and as much as you think, oh, that's easy, it is hard to do.
It is not easy to take you off gluten and milk. I mean, it's
especially with the
everywhere.
little people,
Right? Absolutely.
And so, but then I can come back now and say it's only food.
Correct.
Really, it's easy
Okay.
when you look at the results.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, this child who would never look at you, would just look down, was looking at you. So, and within a week, you can get milk out of your system, the protein from milk. And it's not lactose. It's the casein in the milk. It's called casein. It's the actual protein in the milk that causes like a brain fog in these children.
Interesting.
And the gluten does the exact same thing. And then people tend to think, well, then I'll give them soy milk. Soy will do the exact same thing. It's like an opiate effect on the brain.
Okay.
And it makes them real foggy. You take it away, and they actually come alive.
So it sounds like you really benefited from working with a nutritionist.
That was huge. It was a huge piece.
So the book was really helpful to you. The nutritionist was really helpful to you. What else?
Definitely the therapy, the
Physical
OT.
therapy, yeah. Okay.
He kind of graduated out of physical therapy, and then we kept OT for 5 years.
Okay.
She came once a week for 5 years, and then we would do what she was doing.
Okay.
And the nice thing about it was, too, once he progressed out of some of the sensory stuff, she then worked on his fine motor handwriting. Because these kids are, once they're delayed, so many other things get delayed. And if you can get them one-on-one and with somebody who can actually even prepare them for kindergarten, then they can get into kindergarten and actually not fall so far behind.
Wow.
By working with these people all the way. You don't give up just because you think, oh, it's fixed. Keep some of those specialists in. So even now he has a tutor who comes, and he has no sensory issues now. He's fine. And he was extreme. When we had him assessed, he was extreme, but they're all gone.
Oh, what a blessing.
Because you make new neural pathways.
Yes.
And when they're little, I think I've read up until the age of 6, you can really make a new pathway quite easy.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And then those pathways can be made even as you grow older.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just easier when they're before 6, right?
Right.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So do you have any words of advice or to a new parent who's just beginning to kind of get overwhelmed and feel a little nuts with all the differences and so forth? What would you say to
My best
others?
advice is, number 1, scream from your rooftop to find the help.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. Number 1, don't be afraid of the diagnosis. If you're told your child has autism, don't go into a dark hole or hide behind a door and think, oh, and because they are cute when they're little and they're quirky. Those quirks are going to get bigger. So you gotta literally take it and run.
Take the bull by the horns and just go.
And I literally screamed from the rooftops. I called people in my neighborhood who I knew had kids with delays. I didn't know what their delays were, and I called them. And people are willing to help you.
So don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
You're not going to offend somebody by saying, I noticed your child has such and such and such.
Don't be shy.
Where did you get help?
Right. That's where I got all my information.
So parents were a big
Parents were a big resource, and listen to them. When they're telling you there's a guy over here who does this, and go.
Okay, so this pediatrician you went to, do you still go to that pediatrician?
We go to him now once a year.
Okay.
He's a holistic pediatrician.
Okay.
And when we had started out, our son had ear infections and throat infections, and we were at the pediatrician every other minute. He goes once a year now for a well visit because we've literally made his body well.
Yeah.
His body wasn't well, even with everything. When a lot of
medication,
these kids,
I would think, with all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the malnutrition, just because they don't want to eat or they don't want to, and when you're miserable, you don't feel well, and your whole system is low.
Yeah.
So we go to a holistic pediatrician. He is a DAN doctor, Defeat Autism Now.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't have the diagnosis of autism, but I went into him and I said, okay, I've got sensory processing disorder, and autistic characteristics. There are some, the not looking and that. And he said to me, we're going to treat him as if he's got it.
Okay.
That's fine. And that didn't give me fear either. I said, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm not afraid.
So your advice is to ask for help. Don't be shy. Ask for it everywhere from everything. Don't be afraid of labels, because labels actually help relieve you and know what direction to head.
Yeah. And just get on top of it. The faster you get on top, it's not going away. And your kids aren't going away. So the faster you get on top of it, the more you're going to bring this child who's in this miserable state even into some peace. I looked at it as my job. It was my full-time job.
How did you take care of you during the process? Because it sounds like it was kind of all
It
consuming.
was, yeah, it was all consuming. I think having my spouse who was, he was working, but he was definitely a cheerleader, and he never said no. If I said I need to go see the specialist, he said go.
Go. Okay.
Yeah. Also, when it comes financially, we just put all vacations on hold. The thought of a new car or different things that we had, on our list went away, and that money literally went to the brother. Well, that's what I would tell my daughter. We're not going to go to Disney because it's going to your brother, and he's getting better. Because a lot of these things do out of pocket. There's some out of pocket costs.
Absolutely, it could be really, really expensive, and I love the way that you incorporated your daughter into the treatment and so forth, so she didn't feel like, not only am I not going to Disney because of my brother, but we're not doing this because of my brother, and we're not, that kind of thing. And so she became part of the solution.
She really did.
Which was really, really helpful.
And if we had to buy, a certain piece of equipment, because we made a therapy room in our basement, it was for her and him. And if she, a lot of them are swings and things to jump on, and that was her balance beam too.
So it's fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
And we all would go down together.
Sounds like you made the best of what could have been a really, really scary situation.
A scary situation. And I think, if you can if you can wrap your head around the fact too that you don't necessarily follow the black and white path, the medical path where they say, come back in 6 months. If your gut's telling you, no, there's something wrong,
Go in.
you can go outside the lines.
Okay, so follow your gut.
Follow your gut.
Krista, thank you so much.
Oh,
I know
you're
we could
welcome.
talk about that forever, but it was really, really informative and helpful. So thanks
You're
for
welcome.
coming. And thank you. And remember, don't hesitate to ask for help.